K-PAX movie. To find out who the mysterious main character Prot really was, we should turn to the book that formed the film script. There is a significant difference between the film and the book. In the book, Prot isn't an alien, but Robert Potter's second self. He created it after experiencing a tragedy and realizing that life had driven him into a dead end and destroyed everything he loved. Robert came up with Prot as a child when a misfortune happened to his father, but resorted to his help only sporadically. And after the death of his own family, his wife and a daughter, he summoned Prot from K-PAX and left him there for almost 5 years. Robert's life was unsuccessful from the very beginning. At first, he had to refuse attending college, although he was given a scholarship for his school achievements. Then he found himself in a social vacuum, due to his forced marriage to a Catholic girl. He himself wasn't a Catholic, the marriage was considered mixed, and was condemned by the residents of the town. No one wanted to visit him, and no one invited him to his place. In order not to feel like an outcast, Robert and his family moved out of town, where they lived in solitude. Robert had to agree to a humiliating job at a slaughterhouse which had previously killed his father. But there was no other job in those places, and the family needed to be fed. And after some time, Robert lost his family, for which he made all these sacrifices. Mad with grief, he broke the neck of the killer of his daughter and wife, thereby finally cutting off path to a normal life. Realizing what he had done, he tried to commit a suicide, but nothing worked. Robert decided to become an alien, to escape from real life into a fictional world. Spending time in public libraries, he not only satisfied his desire to study, but also created an imaginary alien world in the smallest details, even invented its language. There was no religion in this world, because religion was the cause of his loneliness. There were no money or property, because Robert grew up poor and lacking of money. There were no states, authorities, police, and everything else that limits a person. Moreover, there was no sex on the imaginary planet, because sex creates many problems for a person. There was no love either, because losing loved ones is very painful. And without all this, there were no families. Children were raised by the entire society, and they barely knew their parents. The conception of children on K-PAX was done out of necessity, and the process itself was very unpleasant. No one wanted to repeat it. And since there was no sex, then there were no crimes associated with it. Robert convinced himself that he was on Earth on a business trip. His goal was to study human civilization and make a report about it on K-PAX. He remained in this relatively happy state of alien until the police noticed his strange behavior and took him to a psychiatric hospital. Prot fell into the hands of a kind but not very wise Dr. Mark Powell, who wanted to help him and regain his lost personality. The doctor couldn't predict the consequences and only worsened the patient's conditions. Guided by the best intentions, the doctor began to methodically, step by step, destroy Prot's protective shell, put him out of there, and prove that he wasn't Prot but Robert Potter. Without knowing all the details of the patient's past, the doctor was sure that he was helping. But in reality, he was only harming him. Even after learning about Robert's tragedy as a result of his own investigation, he didn't stop, but only intensified the onslaught. The doctor didn't bother to think that he was returning Robert from a better world to a worse one. He was destroying not only his fictional world, but also Robert's self-esteem. After all, everything related to the planet K-PAX was created by his powerful intellect. And the doctor proved that Prot was just a mentally ill impostor. As a result, the doctor drives Prot into a dead end and he has no other way. Prot makes a desperate step. He announces that he is returning to his planet and even names the date. There is such confidence in his voice that the doctor doubts, will he really return? Then he realizes that this cannot be, and again strengthens in his point of view. But Prot still flies away, although not in the way one might expect. The patient understands that people will not leave him alone, and will take away the last thing that helps him to live. In fact, they have already taken it away. Prot acts simply. He allows the mental illness that he was holding back to develop further. He falls into a state of catatonia, complete immobility and inability to speak. In the finale, he is transported along the corridor on a gurney. Who is in front of us, Prot or Robert? Other patients at the clinic refuse to recognize him as the Prot they knew. Viewers believe that Robert had an alien in his body, and then Prot left him and went back to K-PAX. The filmmakers deliberately push us to this conclusion, with many hints and understatements. But if you read the book, then everything falls into place. The wise, kind and fair Prot, who helped everyone, is just an invention of a man who himself needed help. He invented such a support for himself, but at the clinic they broke it. On the part of the doctor, it would be much more humane to leave Robert Potter alone, in the image of Prot, than returning him to reality. Hiding behind his second self, Robert was happy in the world he had invented, where he was free from the burdens of earthly existence. And the doctor brought him back, not realizing that Robert hated this world and felt a deep disgust for it. Robert morally grew out of our world and moved to a new level. And when he had nowhere else to hide, he took refuge in catatonia. No one will get him there for sure. The doctor continues to communicate with him, but Robert doesn't react at all. In fact, in this story, his role isn't positive, but negative. Without wanting it, he became the last blow of fate that finally broke Robert. Thanks to everyone who watched this video. See you. Bye bye.